Hi everyone, I'm Staci, a compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet. I write those meals down. I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat in between my meals no matter what. I eat what I commit no matter what. And abstinence is most important in my life today without exception. My abstinence date is July 1st, 2017. Really good to be here. Jillian, thank you so much for asking me to share today. And I'm going to share today on step 3, which is step 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And I thought I would tell you what I used to be like, what happened to change me, and what I'm like now in relation to step 3. So what it used to be like is I was entirely powerless over food and self-will run riot. And I still am powerless over food. But I thought that I had such strong will when it came to everything else in my life. And I was very disciplined when it came to my studies and my profession and everything else, very disciplined. I tried everything that I could think of at the time when it came to controlling my eating and my weight. It was the constant food thoughts that I had. And I didn't know how to do anything but I have a list actually of what I've tried. First of all, I was a severe binger and restrictor. And I tried slim fast and chewing food and spitting it out, over exercising, overuse of laxatives, Weight Watchers. I was very successful at that. I'm a lifetime member, but I still had the constant food thoughts. South Beach, Dexatrim, phentermine, hypnosis. And towards the end, I was using my diabetes medicine to try to control my weight after a binge, which was not the proper way to be using that medicine. And even though they worked for a time to lose the weight, the food thoughts never went away. And I was always confused as to why I had such willpower and I didn't have willpower over my food. It's just because I didn't understand, at the time. And self-will run riot. That was kind of me in a nutshell. You know what? There's a movie, Charlie and the Food We Don't Eat Factory, and I was Veruca in that movie. Like, what did she say? I don't care how, I want it now. And I would get it. And it's because I would just pound it out until I would get it. And an example, I've given this example before, but it would be like I'd have all my suits because I would have, I'm a lawyer, I would have a deposition, the next 2 days later, and I would I'd be out of suits and I'd go to the dry cleaner and I would say, I need these back by the end of the day. And they would say, well, now clothes are coming back on whichever day it is. And I would actually say, I'll end up getting them by the end of the day. It's just, are we going to have time having this conversation first? Because the result's going to be the same. And I would get it by the end of the day. I viscerally feel just sick thinking about the way that I used to behave. And I was that way. And I'm being recorded, so I'm not going to, I won't say much more, but that is exactly how I was. What happened to change me? I want to read from the 12 and 12. It says, practicing step 3 is like the opening of a door, which to all appearances is still closed and locked. All we need is a key and the decision to swing the door open. There is only one key, and it's called willingness. And then it goes on, it says, we saw that we were powerless over alcohol, food, but we also perceived that faith of some kind, if only in AA itself, is possible to anyone. These conclusions did not require, I'm sorry, hold on one second. I'm going to tell you. Okay, I don't know, but it says it only required, it only required a willingness to try. And then it talks about like faith alone can avail us nothing. We need action, action, and more action. What I realized, and I'll tell you how I got there in a moment, but what I realized is that this step is about making a decision. The action, action, and more action is in the 4 through 12. So all I needed to do to take step 3 was to make a decision to turn my, to align my will with God's will. So how I got there is I started in another food fellowship in 2008. And it was weighed and measured, with exception, weighed and measured, no sugar or flour and some grains. And that the first time I worked the steps was in that food fellowship. And I remember there was this ceremony, and we were for steps 1, 2, and 3. And I said to my sponsor at the time, I don't know if I can take step 3 yet. And she said, she told me about all it required is just the door being opened ever so slightly with that key of willingness. And I remember the first time that I actually made that decision, and it was on day 39 of that program. And I was at a kid's birthday party, and I asked this person serving if the drink was diet or not diet. It was a soda, and she said it was diet, and I took a sip, it was not diet. And I got up from the table, and everything was around, all the birthday stuff that we don't do. And I called my sponsor, and she didn't pick up yet. And I said to myself, I said, God, please, no matter what, I don't, just let me not eat. And if tomorrow I'm on day 1, I'm on day 1. And if I'm on day 40, I'm on day 40. And what I didn't know at the time, I was new to program, is that it was an innocent mistake, and I was on day 40. But that was the first time I felt like my will aligned with God's will. And I've also heard it said before, it's just making a decision. Like, for example, if you wanted to, you were looking through different cars you wanted to buy, and finally you decide, okay, I'm going to buy this car. That's step 3, but you don't have to, that's making a decision, but you don't have to decide how you're going to finance it, and you're going to do this, and you're going to go get it, and those things, those are all action steps, the 4 through 12. So it's just making that decision. And I was willing to align my will with God's will, and and now what I'm like now is, this is from the 12 and 12. It says, in all times of emotional disturbance or indecision, we can pause, ask for quiet, and in the stillness simply say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done. And I use thy will, not mine, be done throughout the day, every day. If I'm sitting in traffic, whatever it is, it's thy will, not mine, be done. And I do pause in a moment of indecision and really try to align myself with my will, with God's will. And an example, this is just a whatever example, but my father died almost a year and a half ago. And I, oh, about a month ago, my brother sent me my father's watch. And I was at the doctor's office this last Monday, and I was wearing another watch that I had had for, I bought it for myself when my daughter was born, and she's 19 years old now. And I bought it with money from my great grandmother, all the money that she had left me. I bought this watch so I'd have one thing from her. And I went to the doctor's office, and like a good compulsive eater, I took off my watch to get weighed,
Stacy,
and
you
it's
have 5
gone.
more.
Thank you, Phyllis. Watch is gone. And called the doctor's office. I can't tell you what I've done to try to get it back. And then I realized, and then I could have made that. I was thinking, do I go there and do I go search for it myself and expose myself more to COVID and the whole thing? And I paused and I thought, thy will, not mine, be done. I'm going to stay at home. I have my dad's watch. It is what it is. And I could just let that go. And how I treat people today is beyond anything that I could have even, I probably would have thought I was a big wimp back when, before working the steps. I am a litigator. And so in my job, I do what I need to do in order to best represent my client. However, I do it with kindness and not with and not in the ways I used to do it before. But when it comes to back to the dry cleaner, I keep thinking, my procrastination is not their problem. So if I'm going to choose to procrastinate, then I'm going to be kind about it. I'm just going to be kind, and no longer because I want to make amends. I don't want to make amends. At first it was like, well, I don't want to be bad because then I'm going to have to make amends. But no, it's just because it is that educational variety. Like, I really now feel I am a kinder person, and I've modeled. Is that 1 minute left? I'm so sorry, Phyllis. I don't see Phyllis. Oh, because she's not there. Okay. So I feel like I've modeled that for my kids, which is powerful too. I also want to say that when I take steps 1, 2, and 3 every day, 3 times a day. When I put my committed food on my scale and I weigh it and I eat it with 100% honesty, I feel like I'm powerless over food. I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And I'm making the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand him. And that is steps 1, 2, and 3. And for me also, my scale is a nice step 9, because I feel like I'm making an amends every time I weigh and measure my food. Anyway, I think that's all I want to say. I really appreciate, Jillian, the opportunity to speak on step 3, because it's really step 1 I need to live in every day. But step 3 is how I've really changed as a person. And I think that's what I'm really the most grateful for. And that's only because of all of you. And I don't need no matter what. Thanks.